All right, I'm going to spend a few minutes and take the oil assembly off the back of the engine. It's leaking a bit. Looks like it might be the solder joint on the tubes. So I'll take that off, disconnect the oil lines, and then take it to the workbench and see if I can resolder those joints. All right. So I will let that drain. I'll go ahead and break these clamps. I mean, that is very, very clean, fresh oil. All right, there are 3 different ways of cutting these clamps, these crimp-on clamps. Let's see, can you see those? These clamps right here. I love them. They're very, very good. They're not removable. You have to cut them off and then replace them. But they hold really well. And there's 3 ways of cutting them off, getting them off. One is with a clamp cutting tool, but it has to go in there sideways, and there's not a lot of room here. I don't think this is going to work, just trying to cut the head off. Let's try it and see what happens. Nah, I can't get enough. It'll do it sideways, but it won't do it vertical. Oh, there, I cut through it sideways. All right, that's good, because I was going to use these next. It's very tight. There it goes. All right, so I got that out. Let's see if I can get the, I don't think I can get this next one out far enough to get that cutter on there. I think I could take the pressure regulator off, get it out of the way. Oh, decisions, decisions, decisions. Let's strip it down. Yeah, I'll probably take these off just to get them out of there. All right, stand by. I'm going to take the pressure regulator and this line off just to get clearance to pull that out and work on it. I'll be right back. Okay, I took off the oil line that goes up to the rocker boxes. That's out of the way. And I pulled the pressure relief valve out here. So that's out of the way. Now I can get at these things really easy. It gives me an opportunity to take this apart and just look at the inside. It looks to be brand new, but I'll take it apart and check it out and then put it back on. So let's see if I can get this fitting off these lines, or off the lines off the fitting, one of the two. Okay, now somebody out there right now is heading for their keyboard to say, that's too much trouble to take those clamps off. Why don't you use screw clamps? I don't like screw clamps. First of all, they're ugly. Second, if you put a clamp on here, these clamps are basically good for the rest of the bike's life. This is quite unusual to actually have to take one off after putting them on. I like them. They look good. I use them a lot, and they're not ugly. In my humble opinion, I don't like screw-on clamps. I'll tell you what, frankly, the ones that are the best are the, let me show you a couple like this. Well, I thought I had some over there in my clamp drawer, but I don't. They're the type you use a pair of pliers to squeeze down. They're sort of springy, and use pliers to push them down, put them over the hose, let go of them, and the spring clamp keeps clamping for the rest of its life. So they really hold well. These that I'm using, and even the screw clamps, they go on tight, but then as conditions change, lines and bikes get hot and cold, they may need to be retightened, especially the screw ones. So anyway, but then the other ones are red or green, and they are not overly ugly, but I don't like them. So I use these. Let's see if I can get these off. Okay, that one's good. And that one's good. All right, so I'm gonna take this over to the bench and work on it. I'll take this over to the bench and got to work on these two things. Let me get in here so you can see. I'm gonna take this apart just to see what's inside. I know what's inside to make sure it's clean inside. And I'm gonna take this apart over there and find out where is it leaking and resolder it. So I'll be back. All right, I've got the oil assembly in the vise. I'm going to use MAP gas, which burns hotter than propane, to break these solder joints free. Now, I put human-powered vacuum on this end while holding my finger over the end here so that I was applying vacuum by mouth. And it held pretty good. And I did the same thing for the other one, and it didn't lose vacuum. It didn't, vacuum did not decrease, shall we say. Anyway, so they may not be leaking here. So the leak may have been underneath between the gasket and then coming out this bolt. But in the meantime, I've got it here. I'm going to take it apart, take a look at it, and put it back together. So let's see what happens when I hit it with the map gas. That's one. That's two. That came out a whole lot easier than that one. All right, so I'm going to cool all this down and clean it up. All right, I'm going to throw away the last couple of videos that I did showing you when I got the ends of these tubes. Boy, it's hard to focus this thing down. When I tinned the ends of the tubes, and when I tinned the inside of the fitting, I'm going to erase all that because I figure that half of you out there are technical people who know how to solder really well, and plumbers who know how to solder really well, and people who work in industry who know how to solder really well. And you'd all explain to me how my soldering techniques were terrible. So I'm just going to say I tinned them inside. They're ready to be sealed all the way around the periphery. And that is all. So I'm going to set up and I'm going to solder these on. Okay, a little bit of extra solder that was flung off during the process. Here's the final product, and I'm going to say to you, it's ugly. That'd be ugly. That'd be a ugly soldering job. No doubt about it. Definitely not mil spec. What happened? Okay, I don't know what went dark. Definitely not mil spec. I think I might be overheating out here. But it's tight. It's soldered all the way down into the shaft. It's soldered onto the shafts. It's soldered at the connecting point. It's tight. It'll do the job. Yeah, it's not mil spec. I know that. But in the Air Force, we didn't do soldering like this. We were electronics. We worked on wires, integrated circuits, PC boards, even vacuum tubes. Believe it or not, the F-105 still had vacuum tubes. So we never did soldering like this. And to be allowed to solder, we had to go through Air Force soldering school. Separate class, learn how to solder. So yeah, I can do mil spec, and this ain't that. So anybody out there who's going to tell me it's really ugly, I already know it's ugly, but I think it's tight, and I'm going to put it back together. Okay? That's the way it is. All right, it's about 1 o'clock. And it's about 150 degrees in here. And the bike's back together. The oil lines are back on. The oil line assembly is back on. I've put fresh gasket material on it, gasket and gasket material, and everything's back and tight. I'm just going to let it sit overnight, as I like to do, in order to let the gasket sealer coagulate. I like using that word, to let it harden as much as it does. I'll put fresh oil in it tomorrow and start it up, and then we'll start the leak to check all over again. Getting them all one at a time.